Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Aging and Spirituality podcast. We hope you're having a great day and you're ready to open yourself up to having an even better day. I'm
Yeah.
Chris Jensen.
I'm Kathy Lee Taylor. Thanks for coming.
Thank you all so much for joining us. And today we're going to be focusing on finding purpose and overcoming isolation and depression. These sound like really big topics, but they're related. And what we're going to talk about is pretty straightforward. Often as we age, we do think more about what's the purpose of life? What's the purpose of my life? We're more interested in our spiritual development because we have more time, maybe. And at the same time, we deal with issues like isolation, being not connected to as many people, family or friends, and depression. It's very common.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in overcoming these issues, dealing with a lack of joy or not finding the purpose, then you want to find that. Stay tuned, because we're going to be telling you about one of the most effective ways to overcome these issues. This is according to both science and spiritual paths like yoga. So my straightforward and simple answer is not always what you think it is. It's selfless service, helping others without an expectation of reward. That's not why you do the acts of service, but the benefits are tremendous. So let's talk about overcoming isolation and depression first. I have a friend of mine, this was many years ago, and she was going through life's most trying moments. The divorce, her son was in a motorcycle accident, she had job issues, all of those things. She was feeling very isolated, very depressed. And then her mother called her because she needed help with something. She dropped everything and went to help her mother. And the amazing thing that happened was after she helped her mother, she no longer felt depressed or isolated. Instead, she started to feel confident in dealing with her issues and starting to have a sense of inner joy, which is what comes when we help others. Selfless service doesn't always start out selfless, but just the effort we put in, there's transformation that occurs. Finding the purpose of life and spiritual growth. Okay. Leading us to inner peace and satisfaction, helping others is not just a deed, but it's a journey. And this journey, any acts of kindness that we do can have a lasting impact on others, but they also improve the quality of your life. And you may not think that, people don't think that, but actually what happens when you do go to help others, there's always a transformation process for you. Spiritual service lays the foundation for our selfless service, really lays the foundation for our spiritual journey. Humility, tolerance, empathy, compassion, they all come from selfless service. Scientific facts now support the inevitability of the positive effect of caregiving that it can produce on the human mind. So we know this in yoga, but we know it from science too. And protecting the interest of humanity as one's own can just change your outlook towards everything. It's like the yoga theory of karma. Everything you do comes back to you. Every thought, feeling, action, it comes back to you. So helping others really is helping yourself. And, this transformational journey will take you to happiness and bliss. For people seeking it, selfless service can bring unparalleled joy. The noble acts of selfless service continue on and on and on. But that's not why we do them. So I want to be clear. I'm talking about the way you can get all these benefits, but that's not your reason for doing it. And Marianne Williamson from A Course in Miracles, she said, nothing liberates our greatness like the desire to help, the desire to serve. And perhaps, one of the answers to life's biggest questions is selfless service. The practice of giving without expectation of return could be one of the drivers in life. Finding your purpose once you start serving others, it comes. Um, it can be a leap in going forward on the spiritual path. And here's the thing. It doesn't mean that you don't take care of yourself or that you become a hospital, that you, just, take care of everybody else, totally wear yourself out, and there's nothing left. That's not what we're talking about here.
Right,
We're
right.
talking about acts of selfless service that you can do to help others and while being fully a full human being yourself.
Let me throw a question at you in the middle of you. Sorry, I'm going to throw you off track a little bit. I hope you can get back on track. But I keep wondering as you're talking, when we do selfless service, the two things that come to mind that you're doing automatically is, number one, you're not paying attention to your nonsense. You're not paying attention to your pain, or you're taking your focus and putting it on someone else, and that is in a care situation. So you're not getting stuck in your places of pain. You're also energetically putting your energy in your heart. You're expressing, giving from your heart, right? Are those?
Yeah, actually, your first point is where one of the things I was going to, which is selfless service transforms the ego. Whenever we are in pain and fear and angst and depression, it's because our ego is in charge and it's not really capable.
It's feeling separate. So
It's
that's actually an interesting point, because so if somebody's following karma yoga, they're really I call wrangling with the alligator. They're learning how to deal with their ego. When the ego's making its play, and when, what it's up to. And as you go through that process, as every yogi does, everybody who studies yogis and practices it does, you learn who you are. You learn who that spiritual soul self is compared to what you often think you are, which is the ego. And so you learn how each one is active, and you get to choose, which one you want to be in, correct? I mean, that's correct.
Yes, that's kind of where I was going with this. Right?
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. That no, it's good. It's good that you brought it up. There's simple, very simple things you can do. As I said, you don't have to be a hospital. You could help a family member, a neighbor, or a friend. Maybe parents of a newborn are sleep deprived, like my daughter and her husband. They could use a cooked meal.
A grandmother to come over and stay.
Right. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
A neighbor of ours lost his wife, and he was feeling depressed and isolated. So maybe you invite the neighbor over to dinner, or you invite him to go for walks with you. Or maybe your friend has gone through a difficult time and they just need someone to talk to. Those are acts of selfless service.
Yeah.
And as I said before, even though that's our goal, it doesn't always start that way. We want to help them, but there's a process that occurs as you practice selfless service. That transformation of ego occurs. There's humility, tolerance, empathy, compassion that just come. It's not like you wake up one morning and say, "Oh, hey, my ego softened." It just comes. And there are lots of things you can do to practice this kind of service. You could volunteer at a nonprofit organization. They all need help. They need volunteers. A homeless shelter, an environmental organization, an animal shelter. In addition to helping and having this ego transformation, then you also get to meet like-minded people.
Yes.
It's very helpful.
Yes.
Very helpful. You could volunteer at a nonprofit spiritual organization that fits your ideals. And that could be a great way to experience this transformation and have the support of like-minded people. When you practice selfless service, you're beginning this journey of self-discovery that leads you to know so much more about who you truly are. Not this ego that's out there duking it out all the time, but this pure, loving consciousness within us. I mean, it just really lays the foundation. And I will tell you one of my experiences early on in the yoga path. When I started yoga, my mind was all over the place. I mean, when I was trying to meditate, everybody has this series of thoughts. Well, I had one series of thoughts, and then I had another reporting on that series of thoughts. I had like 2 cycles of thoughts going. I mean, it was just incredibly busy mind. And the interesting thing was that I got involved in selfless service only because the yoga organization that I was involved in needed help. And I just wanted it to give it the help because I wanted
To
it to
thrive.
yeah, I wanted it to thrive and survive. I just wanted to do what I could to help. And what was very interesting is after I got involved in that for a while, I found that a complete transformation in my meditations. It's not why I did it. It's not what I expected to happen. But it was this, first of all, the reporter shut off, and then the thoughts got quiet. And then it was just so much more pure and easy because there had been this transformation of ego that was occurring, which was a stumbling block to going farther. And I'll tell you one other experience that was involved in the service. So there was this problem that occurred, and everybody was pointing fingers at everybody else saying it was their fault because they didn't want the yoga master to think that they
Of course.
mistake. And so I said to him, look, this is my fault because I did this, and I think this is ultimately my fault. Well, about 3 months later, he came up to me and he said, because you were honest and willing to admit that you made a mistake, he said, Shakti has moved. There has been incredible transformation.
Right. Wow. And that's a great example of your soul being able to get through to you and make a difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there you are in a bit, you got yourself in a position of serving, you've got you're this volunteer, you're open, you're, being very studious about not letting the ego take over and get in the way. And, soul comes through and takes care of it.
Yeah, exactly. And those things do happen as you practice selfless service. You find, I mean, I found this in the workplace or selfless service. Things are going to come up that tweak your ego.
Right. Always.
Nobody's perfect. Nobody does everything right all the time. That's clear, And so those things are going to come up. And it's more challenging in selfless service because you're not getting paid for it.
You have no hill to stand on.
yeah, exactly. And yet, if you can keep going, the benefits are enormous. Huge benefits. And when I said Shakti had moved, that's spiritual energy, a transforming spiritual energy. I just want to be more clear about that. But and so here's an interesting thing. So Ramakrishnananda, the founder of the Yoga Center where Kathy and I have studied for many years, he's doing a new website that he's going to put out to the world because he wants the world to have these teachings. And part of it, there are some courses that come from seminars and retreats that he gave. And he said, for this part, if people want to do that, I mean, all the other videos are just available. And he said, there's not going to be any monetary charges, but if they want to do this part, if they want to get the benefits from the courses, which are his seminars and retreats, then they need to do 2 hours of selfless service a week. And not whatever they choose to do. He said, otherwise they won't get the benefits.
Right. Well, that's that spiritual principle that all of his students live by, right? We all have to volunteer on some level. We all have to live the selfless service in our lives.
Right.
To get the benefit, not because, there's anything else, but we're growing.
Right. And so, I mean, he's very clear. And in that section of the website, there's a little thing that introduces it. And he explains how important selfless service is. And the transformations that occur from it affect every area of your life. I mean, it helps you to know who you are, your purpose. it creates an inner joy, a resilience. It opens the energy centers so there's more confidence, and it opens the door to you experiencing higher consciousness.
That's the key right there. It's not, yoga is not something you just get to think about and talk about and logic
Right,
the way through.
right,
It's something you have to experience.
right, right. And you know, the thing that I like about selfless service is we can all do it.
Yeah.
We can all do it. My very first night in our advanced class, Ramakrishna Nanda was having people introduce themselves. And after we did, and we sat down, and I sat way in the corner because I felt like the
Hiding.
littlest angel. And so he said, you know, we've had people who come here and they can wrap their legs around their head. And we've had other people who come, and the first week they go to this very deep experience of in meditation. And he said, but you know what? They're not the ones who make it in yoga.
Wow. Or stay, yeah.
Yeah, he said, the ones who make it, he said, there's one quality you need to really make it in yoga. And make it in yoga means leading an enlightened life where you experience yourself and live from there all the time. And he said, and that quality is steadiness.
Steady. Okay.
You just need to be steady. And I remember walking back to my seat and thinking, of all the things he said, that's the one thing I could do. I could be steady.
I'm a turtle. I can be steady. I can do this every day.
Right.
That's great.
But you're going to have that quality when you
Yeah.
practice service, because
Yes.
you can help a friend and they can slap you in the hand, you know. I mean, you could help a neighbor and, you know, and maybe they appreciate it and then they don't, or you could volunteer for a nonprofit organization and you inevitably run into people's egos and stuff. And so the thing is, do you keep going?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and if for no other reason than spiritual growth never ends.
No.
It keeps going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're not going to be steady, then you're cutting yourself off. Then you're not on the path. If you're going to stay on the path, you have to be steady and continue to grow.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And I thought, you know, if this is one thing we can probably, I mean, people often think that meditation is difficult. And, you know, when you first sit down to meditate, it is, because we have a habit of our mind being all over the place. So we're trying to create a new habit of focus. And so, you know, that can take a while. It doesn't happen. For some people, it happens quickly, but for most people, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there are a lot of different things we do in yoga to help us, breathing practices, they all help. But this is one thing that everybody can do. We don't need any particular characteristics. We don't need any special abilities or qualities.
Right.
Everybody can do it.
Yeah.
There's a great story about Milarepa. He was a saint from eons ago. And he went to this ashram to learn mantras and study with the guru. And the guru told him that, you know, hey, well, you know, it's cold. You need to go out there and chop wood and bring it in. And so Milarepa did that, and he did that he kept doing it, and the guru kept telling him, good, keep doing it. And all the people were coming and they were learning mantras and chanting and doing all these things, you know, and Milarepa is still chopping the wood and carrying it. And then one day he picks up the wood and a hair from his beard had got caught, and he looked at it and it was gray. And he started to cry because he thought, oh, all this time's gone by and I'm still carrying wood. And as soon as he did that, the guru came running out and he said, what's wrong? And he said, because when a saint such as you sheds a tear, he said, the whole earth shakes.
Oh my gosh, that gives me the heebie.
I know.
In my whole body.
Right.
That's awesome.
And Milarepa went on to be a very great saint.
Yeah.
And it was all about his
selfless service.
Selfless service, you know.
Carrying the wood.
Right. He wasn't in there doing all those other things.
Right.
So
anybody can do it. That's a great story to end on. Boy, that makes you feel so good. It gives you like a little tingle up your spine. That is so true.
Yeah, any of us can do it. That's what I love about it. So
right.
Play around with it. You know, you can do it for 5 minutes. You can help someone cross the street, carry a bag from somebody, and let it grow from there.
And literally, it is the thing that keeps us talking about yoga right now, this day.
Right.
You know, yep. Chris started back in the 70s, me in the early 80s. And this is the thing that thrills us to bits. This just keeps us growing. It keeps compiling on top of itself and just expanding and getting better. I mean, believe it is so much fun. It is so worth the little bit of effort that you have to put into it to get the
Yeah.
results. It's amazing. It really is.
Absolutely
You just take one
amazing.
step towards God, he'll take 10 towards you. It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Thank you. That's a
So
good talk.
work with selfless service this week. And like I said, it doesn't have to be totally selfless when you start. You'll get transformed. It'll become selfless. As time goes on. As time goes on,
Let's get started.
get started. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let us know if you have questions. We'd love to hear from you.
We would love to hear. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
See you
Bye-bye.
next week. Bye.